Hi everyone. Our assignment this week asked for us to choose and analyze a statement from Judith Kapferer's The Architectonics of State Power, Complicity and Resistance. The statement I will be breaking down and discussing is the relation between the state and the arts had been transformed from a discourse on tastes and morality to one of economic rationalism and political collusion. To begin analyzing, we first need to understand what the statement means. So, to break it down, this is how I interpreted the statement. The statement describes the change in the relationship of the arts and the state between the 15th and 20th centuries. When we talk about tastes and morality, we're referring to how art makes someone feel, their opinion of a piece of art, what type of art or music someone enjoys viewing or listening to, and debating whether it is, quote unquote, good or bad. On the other side, when we talk about economic rationalism, we're referring to a free market, determining the value of art, and using public interest to determine what people want and like. And political collusion refers to the government's involvement in the arts, and I interpreted this to mean the government's action in allocating funding to organizations, regulating public art, and using the arts as a political tool. So, how did Kapfer arrive at this statement? Well, she begins the chapter by explaining how artists were supported through the 15th to 18th centuries, and writes, the protection of artists was the province of aristocratic dynasties that could augment or rescind their patronage at unpredictable moments. Basically, the arts were at the service of the noble class, and some struggled with gaining independence. Art was a rather private matter, as its purpose was to augment the homes or entertain the nobility. However, in the 18th century, we see the burgeoning of the public sphere, which as Kapfer describes, served as an arena for public debate and social criticism in which the ideals of the Enlightenment took root and provided fertile ground for the development of a range of philosophers, scientists, artists, and writers. It was in the public sphere that artists were able to publish and disseminate their ideas and works, largely in part to the patronage of the intelligentsia, who took interest in the critique and arguments of art. Artists had more freedom now than they did under the protection of aristocratic dynasties, but they were still at the mercy of the tastes of the patron. Moving forward to the 19th century and later into the 20th, we begin to see a rise in a merchant class interested in capital. As Kapfer states, the enormous wealth of the robber barons of the United States, concerned for their own profit and social aggrandizement, and the prestige of their national institutions, extended the international trade in artworks and the construction of museums and art galleries to accommodate them. In this instance, the interests of the national state and of capital dovetailed tidily, the one supporting the other. We begin seeing the power of private philanthropy. Donors are generously distributing money to the artists. Commercially successful artists were associated with the patrons, and their success is illustrated by the amount of curators, financiers, auctioneers, and dealers who disseminate their work. However, something to keep in mind is that regardless of the time period, the success of the artist is largely dependent on patronage. In other words, the artist needs the patron. Art is essential for forming the aesthetic value of culture, and the market determines the monetary value attached to it. So, what about art and politics? Within the realm of arts and cultural policy, Kapfer states, a critical approach to the relation between the state and the arts has at its very center the idea of administration. She goes on further to refer to administration as the assembling, distribution, evaluation, and organization of culture as a bureaucratically regulated arm of the cultural departments of cities. This is where I believe political collusion comes into play. The arts in the public setting can be regulated by the government. Government agencies such as National Endowment for the Arts and National Endowment for the Humanities, for example, distribute and award funding annually to various institutions across the country, enabling them to function and distribute culture. So, one could argue that the government also acts as a patron to the arts. The government chooses which organizations and which projects are funded. In other words, the government determines what art can be produced if it arises from their funding. In addition, the arts can serve the purpose of social commentary. A quote from the reading states, "From ancient times, the arts have been used to represent and promote the forces of power in ruling socio-political regimes, but they have also been engaged in challenging those institutions of power and in breaking through those conceptions, values, and conventions that are associated with hegemonic state authority and governing social orders." Basically, art in its various forms can be used to protest political leaders, religion, and social injustice, to name a few. It can be used as propaganda, but it can also be used to promote political force and influence nations. As we have seen throughout the course of history, using art in this manner can cause backlash and in some countries even cause imprisonment. So with all of this in mind, as arts administrators, it is important for us to acknowledge, as Cap Ferrer states, the legitimation of arts policies is the legitimation of the corporate state itself. Arts policies exist to serve the state, and it is our responsibility to define the relationship between the arts and the state. Unfortunately, the debate surrounding art is no longer concerned with the base value of taste and aesthetics, but rather how the economy can benefit and utilize art itself. Thank you.